I'm going to tell you something that most people in my position don't like to admit because it doesn't fit the clean version of the story. The version with the neat arc and the inspirational music swelling at the end. Here it is. There was a night, one specific night, when I was 19 years old, sitting in the back seat of a 2003 Honda Civic with a broken rear defroster and a passenger window that didn't seal right, parked behind a 24-hour Walmart in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I genuinely did not believe I was going to make it. Not make it like succeed, make it like survive. I sat there with my back against the door and my knees pulled up to my chest because it was February and the car held cold the way old cars do, like the metal itself had given up on warmth. And I counted what I had. $11 and some change. A duffel bag with 3 changes of clothes, a broken zipper, and a copy of a book someone had left in the break room at a job I'd just lost. Half a box of crackers, a phone with a cracked screen that I was rationing the battery on because the car charger had stopped working. I want you to sit with that image for a second before I tell you where I am now, because I think people hear rags to riches and they skip the rags part. They don't want to feel the cold or smell the staleness or understand the specific humiliation of washing your face in a Walmart bathroom at 6 a.m. while a woman with a shopping cart gives you a look that you will never, ever forget. I don't want you to skip it. The rags are the whole point. My name is Deshaun. I grew up in Tulsa, North Side, in a house that was always one bad month away from a crisis. My mom worked 2 jobs most of my childhood, home health aide during the day, a few overnight shifts at a nursing facility on weekends. My dad was in and out in the way that some dads are, present enough that I didn't fully write him off, but absent enough that I learned early not to build plans that required him. I have a younger sister, Kezia, who is now in graduate school studying public health. And the fact that she got there is something I will be proud of until I die. I was not a bad student. I want to say that clearly because the story I'm telling could make it sound like I was someone who fell through the cracks because of bad choices. And the truth is more complicated and more unfair than that. I graduated high school with a 3.1 GPA. I had applied to 2 colleges and gotten into one, a state school about 90 minutes from Tulsa. I had filled out the FAFSA, gotten a small grant, and was planning to take out the rest in loans. Then my mom got sick. Not catastrophically at first, a diagnosis that required medication, then a secondary issue that required more medication, then a cascade of appointments and adjustments, and a medical bill situation that I will not get into because the American healthcare system is a different story for a different day. The point is that by August of what was supposed to be my freshman year, the math had changed completely. My mom needed help, financial and physical, and there was no one else. I deferred my enrollment. 1 year, I told myself. Just 1 year, and then I'd go. I got a job at a logistics warehouse, then a second job at a sandwich shop on weekends. I gave most of what I made to the household and tried to keep enough back to save, which almost never worked because something always came up. A year passed and then another, and college started to feel less like a deferred plan and more like a photograph on a wall, something you looked at sometimes, something that used to feel real. When I was 19, my mom's health had stabilized enough that she had a home health aide coming in twice a week, and Kezia was old enough to be more helpful around the house. I had also, during this period, managed to completely destroy the one work relationship that had been going well by mouthing off to a manager who was genuinely terrible, but who was also, unfortunately, the kind of connected in our small employment world that made it difficult to move to another warehouse in the same company. I lost the job. I picked up extra shifts at the sandwich shop to compensate. Then the sandwich shop location closed. Within 6 weeks, I had gone from stretched-thin employed to unemployed, and the apartment I had been renting a room in, 3 other guys, cheap by any standard, required me to be contributing, which I suddenly wasn't. I did not want to go back to my mom's house. I want to be very honest about that, because some people will read it as pride, and it was, partially, but it was also something more practical. I had watched what stress did to her body. I had watched her worry physically manifest in her health. Going back to her house broke and unemployed would have put something on her that I wasn't willing to put on her. So I packed what I could fit in the Honda, left most of my stuff with one of my roommates, and told my mom I had an opportunity working out in a different part of the city and I'd be back on my feet soon. She probably didn't believe me. Moms usually don't, but she let me say it. 7 months. That's how long I lived in that car. I'm going to walk you through what that actually looks like because I think it's important. The Walmart parking lot was my anchor. 24 hours, security that more or less left you alone if you stayed in your car and didn't cause problems, a bathroom inside that opened all night. I learned the rhythms of that parking lot. When the overnight stocking crew showed up, when the security guard switched shifts, which corner of the lot had a light that was always burned out. I became a student of my own survival in a way that I think permanently rewired how I observe things. I found a job within 2 weeks, a day labor place that sent you out every morning to different sites. Construction, landscaping, warehouse loading. You showed up at 5:30 a.m., you got on a bus or a van, you worked until they were done with you, and you got paid cash at the end of the day. Somewhere between $40 and $80 depending on the job. It was grueling and inconsistent, and it was also the thing that kept me alive. I ate cheap, strategically. I learned which fast food places threw out food at what time. I'm not too proud to say that. I learned where the food bank was and that you could go once a week and no one asks you to prove anything. I kept myself clean with fierce determination. The Walmart bathroom, a gym I eventually paid $18 a month for specifically to have access to showers, and a discipline about appearance that was almost military. If you look homeless, people treat you like a problem to be managed. If you look like someone between situations, people sometimes treat you like a person. The book that had been in my duffel bag since the day I packed up. I don't want to say the title because I don't want this to sound like an advertisement, but it was a business book, the kind with a bold sans serif title and a promise in the subtitle. I read it 4 times that winter, not because it was life-changing literature, but because it was what I had. But something in it kept snagging me. A chapter about a concept I'd never really applied to myself before. The idea of identifying what you already knew how to do and building from that instead of waiting until you had resources to learn something new. What did I know how to do? I knew labor. I knew logistics from the warehouse. I knew from 2 years of watching my mom's home health situation that the demand for home care workers was high, the pay was inconsistent, and the scheduling was a disaster that caused families enormous stress. I had seen my mom's agency send the wrong person 3 times in 1 month. I had seen my mom have to call around frantically when a worker canceled. I had seen the gap between what families needed and what the agencies actually provided. I didn't have money to start an agency, but I had something else. I had time, and I had hustle, and I had a phone with a cracked screen. I started small, embarrassingly small. I made a list of 5 elderly people in my mom's neighborhood whose families I knew from years of being around. People who needed help. People whose adult children were stressed and overstretched. I knocked on doors. I told them I was building a care coordination service, that I would personally vet and schedule reliable help for their family member, and that I charged a flat weekly fee for the coordination. I wasn't the aide. I was the person who found the aide, confirmed they were showing up, and called the family so they didn't have to wonder. My first client paid me $60 a week. I reinvested 40 of it immediately. A prepaid business line, printed cards from a drugstore kiosk, a notebook I used as a client management system. I kept $20, which was 20 more than I'd had in margin for months. By the time summer came, I had 11 clients. I had moved out of the car and into a room I was renting from a woman in her 60s named Miss Arlene, who charged me $200 a month and fed me dinner most nights and asked 0 questions about where I'd come from, which is a kindness I have never stopped being grateful for. I slept on a twin bed in a room that had floral wallpaper and a window that looked out onto a chain-link fence, and I thought it was the most beautiful room I had ever seen. I formalized the business at 21. LLC, registered, a real bank account, real invoices. I hired my first actual employee at 22. She was a retired nurse named Patricia who believed in what I was building and worked for less than she deserved for the first year and is now my head of operations and makes a salary that I am proud to pay her. By 25, the care coordination business had 30 active clients and 7 employees, and I had started a second business, a small commercial cleaning company, because several of the facilities and offices I'd been networking with through the care business kept mentioning they had trouble finding reliable contracted cleaning services. I applied the same model: obsessive reliability, consistent communication, and the flat rate structure that made billing predictable. It grew faster than the first. The third business came at 27, a staffing and placement service for healthcare support workers, which was really just a formalized version of what I'd been doing informally for years. That one is the largest now, 42 employees across the 3 businesses. Revenue that I will not put a number on because it's not the point, but enough that when my mom needed a procedure last year that her insurance only partially covered, I wrote the check without having to think about it. That moment, maybe more than any other, is what all of it was for. I still drive past that Walmart sometimes. Not on purpose, it's just in a part of the city I pass through. And every time I do, something happens in my chest that I don't have a clean word for. It's not pride exactly, and it's not sadness, and it's not nostalgia because I assure you I do not miss a single night of that experience. It's more like acknowledgement, like nodding at something that tried to end you and didn't. I talk to young people sometimes, at schools, at a mentorship program I got involved with about 2 years ago that works specifically with teens who are housing insecure. And the thing I try to tell them, the thing I wish someone had sat down and told me in that Walmart parking lot at 2 a.m. in February, in the back of a broken down Honda when you are 19 years old, and the world feels like it has already made its decision about you, it hadn't. It hadn't even started yet. I am 29 years old. I own 3 businesses. I employ 42 people, most of them from the north side of Tulsa, most of them people who didn't have every door open for them, most of them people who remind me of myself and of my mom and of everyone I grew up watching work hard in relative invisibility. I have a house now, an actual house. It is not a mansion, and I'm not interested in a mansion. It's a 4-bedroom in a good neighborhood, and it has a working heater and windows that seal properly, and I am aware every single day of exactly what that means. On the kitchen counter, I keep a jar. Inside the jar is $11 and some change, 2 5s and a 1, a handful of coins. My accountant thinks it's a quirky decoration. Miss Arlene, who came to my housewarming and cried the whole time, knows what it is. It's a reminder. It's a measuring stick. It's proof that the distance between rock bottom and somewhere real is not as uncrossable as it looks at 2 a.m. in February in the back of a broken down Honda when you are 19 years old and the world feels like it has already made its decision about you. It hadn't. It hadn't even started yet.